Hello, this is the YouTube Simcha and Bitachon guy. I was given that moniker by my chush of a brother-in-law, so I just decided to roll with it. We are going to be doing a series about Simcha and Bitachon and Chovos Halevavos. I think it's a fair question to ask. Why is that necessary? Don't we have enough people who've spoken about Simcha and Bitachon already in the world? It's a good question. And yes, there is a wealth of people who are far more chashiv than I will ever be, almost certainly, very certainly, who have written about and discussed Simcha and Bitachon. And you really should learn them. But every person has their chelik in Torah, and if there's anything that I can add, I think it's a perspective from a certain angle, which I'm going to try and throw my hat into that ring because I haven't seen anybody more chashiv than me do it yet, which is to really explore how bitachon affects a person, how it can change your personality and alter your psychology. I feel like all of the people I've seen who ever speak about Simcha and Bitachon, they're talking about it as a sefer, which primarily is how it should be spoken about. And again, if you haven't learned it, you should with Mefarshim. But sometimes in the academic approach to learning the Pshat, learning the Mefarshim, we lose sight of one aspect, which is how is a person affected psychologically by the ideas of bitachon? How does it alter your personality? What does it do to you? What can it do to you? How does it do it to you? I think this is a really unexplored and unmined area, which with Hashem's help, I've been giving a lot of thought to it, and I know that how it's affected me, and that's what I'd like to share. With that having been said, just very briefly, for a quick second, let's talk about why Simcha and Bitachon, specifically the Chovos Halevavos Sefer specifically, are worthy of such depth. The Torah, written directly by Hashem, contains an extreme exactitude. Everything is perfect because Hashem is perfect. Every nakuda is perfect. So perfect that in our human flawed experience, we sometimes make mistakes. And because every nakuda is perfect, even to the point of a kametz or a patach that does not even affect the meaning of a word, when we read the Torah, we may have to read the Torah another time to make sure we got it right. Like, for example, we do by Zchiras Amalek, where we have to read the pasuk twice with different nakudos, because that's how perfect the Torah is. And in our effort to make sure that we are getting it as perfect as the Torah is, we need now. Is a human being as perfect as the Torah? No. But the Gemara was incredibly exacting with its words, right? We see, for example, in the Gemara in Makos, where somebody presents two separate proofs, and he says Amar, I think it's Rabbah, and then he says Amar of Nachman, and the Gemara says those are essentially the same proof, and so he says, I meant to say V'chein Amar of Nachman. The Gemara felt that was like, how could you say something with inexactitude? That's not appropriate for an Oved Hashem. Everything has to be perfect. Now, again, we move to the Rishonim. Again, the Rishonim are less perfect, but the Rishonim were still immensely, immensely great and exacting in their words and their Lashonos. Every letter that was written by a Rishon is worthy of having its depth be plunged, exploring it, delving into it, being medayig in it. And that's something we may not be able to do as fully with the Achronim, because by the time of the Achronim, even the Chassam Sofer acknowledged this, actually, when he was asked by his Talmidim about it. They were simply not capable, maybe through the Sadoros, you could say it however you like, of being as exacting with their Lashon. So therefore, the Chovos Halevavos, written by a very early Rishon, is replete with secrets about human psychology that are really only available to somebody who has a Masorah from Har Sinai like we do. With that having been said, let's dive in. I'm going to be using, by the way, the text that is hosted by Sfario, which is an open website that is filled with Sfarim and people who have written translations. It's an unbelievable chesed what they're doing. I donate to them because I use their website often, and it's tremendous. The only slight downside is that because it is a Wikipedia-like platform, anybody can add text and anybody can add translations. So just because there's a translation here does not mean that it is like an authoritative translation. And often I disagree with it. And again, it's not like I'm disagreeing with some great chashuv person. I don't even know who put it in. I probably could find it out somewhere on the website, but it's not important. But I just wanted to mention that just because there's a translation here does not mean it should be treated as authoritative. But the Hebrew text is the original text. So let's get started. Amar HaMachaber, says the Machaber of the Chovos Halevavos. Now, you have to realize that the Shar HaBitachon is not the beginning of Chovos Halevavos. Shar Bitachon is the fourth Shar. You might ask, so why do people always seem to focus on Shar Bitachon? It's the focus of many writings. Many Gedolim have spoken about it extensively. Well, that's because of exactly what he says. Since my whole Sefer is primarily about how to be an Oved Hashem properly, how to serve Hashem, Re'isi lahavi achrav, once I explained to you the importance of being an Oved Elokim, I decided to put right away Mashu Tzarech Yoser Mikol Hadvarim, something that you need more than any other thing. LaOved Elokim Dizbarach, to be the Oved Elokim that I just discussed how you have to be. V'hu, what is that thing that is the most necessary thing? Bitachon. HaBitachon alav b'chol devarav. Trust in him in every aspect. Ba'avur mashi yesh bay min hatayelis hagadelis b'inyan ha'torah uve'inyan ha'olam. Which is one of the great things, the great benefits to the person who is living his life in the Inyan HaTorah and the Inyan HaOlam, involved in all his inyanim, in all his ways, everything in his life, if it's to be guided by Hashem's hashkafos, Hashem's desires, then bitachon is going to be the most important ingredient in achieving that. That's a pretty amazing statement. It's a pretty amazing statement, right? That means that if a person spends his life trying greatly to accomplish being the greatest Oved Hashem that he could, I am determined that I will be a tremendous Oved Hashem. I'm going to do the mitzvos properly. I'm going to be makbid on learning. I'm going to be makbid on kashrus. I'm going to be makbid on whatever. Raise my children properly. Make sure that they learn properly. Hey, Pesach, tzedakah, all these things. The only thing is I'm just not a very great Baal Bitachon. I'm not very confident in my trust of Hashem, or in Hashem only being concerned with what's best for me and constantly being there to help me. You know what? In that case, you will not achieve your desire. You're spending your entire life working towards being a great Oved Hashem. You won't succeed. You cannot. It is not possible for you to succeed, and you won't succeed. How depressing is that? Chovos Halevavos is telling you, this is a Rishon, telling you, you will not succeed in being the Oved Hashem that you want to be unless you work on the midah of bitachon. Now, I think it's worthy for a quick second to take a quick detour. This midah of bitachon is fascinating because it comes up in so many different contexts, and I want to show you two of them. Let's look for a second at Orchos Tzadikim. Orchos Tzadikim is another Rishon, later than the Chovos Halevavos, and not regarded as highly, very, very highly, but not, the Chovos Halevavos is sort of like the king of the Moser Sfarim. Says the Sefer Orchos Tzadikim, B'midas HaSimcha, writing in Shar Simcha, so he's not writing about the midah of bitachon, he's writing about the midah of being a person who is misameach. Now, just in case you're not sure how valuable that midah is, Simcha, by the way, does not mean happiness. Unfortunately, it's one of those common mistranslations. English and Hebrew don't really they don't really translate well. Simcha is the midah of feeling that you are of worth, that you have a sense of high self-esteem, value, importance, accomplishment. The totality of your being is sort of living in satisfaction with you, with yourself, and with the world around you, and with your relationship. Like when you have satisfaction in all areas, that's Simcha. Okay, that is what Simcha is. Simcha is this, I'm not lacking any. There's no negativity. Any negativity is the opposite of Simcha. So it's almost like easier to explain that way. If you want to know what the midah of Simcha is, the midah of Simcha is not having any negativity. Okay? Because human beings aren't neutral. We're either positive or negative. If I am overflowing with positivity in every aspect of my life, I'm positive about myself, I'm positive about my relationship with Hashem, I'm positive about all the people around me, then I'm besimcha. If I'm negative, if I'm filled with anxieties, if I don't trust people, if I'm unhappy with my relationships, all of these things are the opposite of simcha. Okay, so that's what simcha is. Simcha is this total being who is in harmony with himself, with the world. Almost sounds like a little bit, wonky-ish. It's hard to explain exactly, but that's the midah of simcha. How important is the midah of simcha? Well, we know that, for example, the Rambam, when he talks about the requirements of being a navi, he says that a navi can only attain nevuah when he's in a state of true simcha. Okay, we don't even have a neviim today, so we can't even imagine what this midah is. But a navi can only experience nevuah when he's in a true state of simcha. True state of simcha. That should already tell you something interesting. You know who received nevuah? Yirmiyahu. You know what? Yirmiyah, I'm sorry. You know what Yirmiyah was doing? Yirmiyah was running around telling people that the Beis HaMikdash is going to be destroyed. He had a life that I cannot imagine. What a terrible, I mean, chas v'shalom, but in a sense, seemingly, what a terrible life he had. He ran around for years telling people, do tshuva, Hashem is done. It's over. Hashem's going to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. He prophesied, he gave nevuah about the most horrible, horrible things that were going to befall humanity. Nobody listened to him, and it came to pass. His nevuah came true, and he saw it. Hashem caused him to be the one to bear witness in Megillas Eicha to the horrible, horrific tragedies. Between the Holocaust and the Churban, I'm not sure which was worse, and there's certainly nothing in between that really compares. To look at the crazy intensity of the suffering, the magnitude of it, and Yirmiyah had to write about it. And you know what? He was a Navi the whole time, which means that he was in a state of perfect simcha. So simcha ain't no joke. How? How is he capable of achieving that? Well, let's see what the Aruch Tzadikim says. B'midas ha-simcha tuluya mitzvah saseh. The midah of simcha is dependent on a mitzvah saseh, which means two things. A, it is dependent on you performing this mitzvah, or else you will not be b'simcha. And B, because it is dependent on this, it is also the opposite side of the coin of this mitzvah. If you are fulfilling this mitzvah, you are being b'simcha. So simcha is both a chiyuv and can only be achieved by fulfilling this specific mitzvah, which is the sort of launching point of being b'simcha. What is that mitzvah? Sheyatzdik kol ma'iraisav. To righteousify, I don't know, to justify maybe, but that's not really a great word, all of the evil that happens to you. Shenamar, like it says, v'yadatim levavcha. You should know in your heart, ki kasher yaser ishes b'nai Hashem alikechem yasreka. Just like a father is required to punish his son, so Hashem is required to make you suffer. Now, I wanted these videos to be only 10 minutes. This is a drop longer, so bear with me for just 1 second. Already, we should have a question. I thought we were talking about simcha. Aren't we talking about simcha? Doesn't simcha, again, it's some kind of positive, some kind of happiness? How is it that in order to be happy, it's dependent upon me realizing that when I get punished, punishment is sort of negative, right? When I get punished, I'm going to feel in my heart that just like a father has to punish his son, so too Hashem has to punish me. That's the root cause of simcha? Sounds like it's a little funny here, right? Okay. Well, let's just put that in abeyance for 1 quick second and look a little further down. The way that a person is going to be misameach in his lot in life, that he's going to be makabel simcha, besimcha, I'm sorry, he's going to be makabel with, whatever, joy, happiness, again, with positivity. Hara, the evil that happens, kimay hatov, just like the good. There are several ingredients that you're going to need. We're just going to focus on the first one. Ha'echad tzarech bitachon gadol be'elikim. You will need to have great trust in Hashem. Wow. Now, the other ones, Emunah, Seichel, and Histafkus, all deserve their own thing, but we're not focusing on them right now. So, again, we see bitachon has this weird, prominent place. Simcha is a necessary thing. According to the Aruch Tzadikim, a Rishon, it is an absolute part of a mitzvah saseh. It is both part of the mitzvah saseh, and it is a requirement to have it in order to have fulfilled that mitzvah saseh properly. Right? The Chovos Halevavos calls it one of the great benefits of being an Eved Hashem, and also the most necessary ingredient to be an Eved Hashem. So this is no joke, this midah of bitachon, And again, we see that he's relating it directly to the idea of Simcha. Okay? So how is it that Simcha is about being makabel rak mayatoiv? Isn't Simcha just about everything being hunky-dory? If I'm besimcha, it's great. Life is great. The answer is the following. This is what I'm going to end with this thought, because I think this is a good place to end, and this video has already gone a little overtime because I am lacking in self-control. The midah of Simcha is not what we think. And the midah of Bitachon is not what we think. It's about altering our worldview to understand that Hashem is always looking out for us and feeling that in the most intimate way at every moment. This is a complex and deep thought, and I need you to focus for a second to really absorb the impact of what I'm about to say. Let's imagine for 1 second two different people. You have child A and child B. They're in camp, okay? And child A, his father's rich. This kid has nothing lacking ever. I mean, the kid has his own credit card, teenager with his own credit card, unlimited credit, unlimited money. Life is great. Okay, and you have child B. Child B comes from a family where they're always struggling to put food on the table, and it's difficult to, he always feels sometimes that he's lacking, and the other kids have a new bike and he doesn't. In a vacuum, if you had to pick, who would you rather be, child A or child B? You'd rather be A, right? A sort of sounds like things are better on the surface. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. A and B are very homesick, and they decide we're running away from camp. I can relate. I did that when I was a kid. And so they run away. And running away in camp is a very serious offense. You can get in big trouble for doing that. And so the head counselor realizes they ran away, and he sends out a search party. And of course, he finds them in the forest, and they're crying hysterically, and and they want to go home. And so they bring them back to camp. Head counselor's furious. He gives them both rips them, screaming at them. He's super angry. And he calls both their parents. And he calls parent B. And he calls parent A. And both of them go into the office separately, and they come out, and B is crying hysterically. And he looks up, and he sees A, and A just looks like really, really sad. And B says to A, what happened? I guess you got away easier than me, because he's looking, he can't stop crying. His father just ripped him. And A said, well, what happened to you? And B says, they called my dad, and he called me on the phone, and he was so mad. He was so angry. He told me he's going to take away my bicycle, and he's going to take away my Game Boy, and he was furious. And he told me that if I don't do this and that, and if he hears me again, and he's going to come tomorrow to camp, and he's coming to camp to whatever, and he's crying hysterically. And he says, hey, what happened with you? And A says, oh, well, they couldn't get through to my dad because he's on a business trip. So they got through to the secretary, and he said he's going to give him a message. And he's like, B says, oh, so like, I guess when your dad finds out, you're going to be in big trouble. He's like, yeah, probably not, though. I don't know. We're paying, full tuition to come to camp, and, they're not going to throw me out anyway, whatever. Stop. Which child would you rather be? B is crying hysterically. He knows he's going to get whipped tomorrow. His father's coming down to camp to potch him in person, or not potch him, or whatever. He knows that he's in trouble. A knows he's not really in trouble. They're going to talk to him, whatever. It's just like in school when he gets in trouble. His father gives $100,000 to the school every year. Like, they'll yell at him, whatever. Nothing's going to happen. Which child would you rather be? There's not an intelligent person in the world that would rather be child A. Everyone would rather be B. Because every adult with the intelligence of adulthood looks at child B and says, his father really loves him. His father really cares. His father is willing to drop everything and come down to camp to make sure that whatever life lesson is appropriate, whatever needs to happen, if he needs to put his life on hold for his son, he'll do it. And as an adult, we recognize that. That's the midah of Simcha. The ability as an adult to look at every single thing that happens in your life and recognize this too is Hashem. I stubbed my toe. Thank you, Hashem. I know there's no suffering in this world without purpose, and you just caused me to have some. which means that some chilek of punishment was taken away from me. Some divine midah of mishpat was just added on. And it's hard because sometimes it's a lot worse than a stubbed toe. And it's difficult. When you have that perspective, everything in life is positive because it's love. Would you rather, God forbid, be sitting alone in a room? Or would you rather be having an argument with your wife? Again, if everything else is equal and your relationship with her is generally good, but tonight you're having a really bitter fight. Would you want to trade places with the guy who never has to have a bitter fight with his wife because he doesn't have one? No one would want that. That's an adult perspective. That's the perspective of the Baal Bitachon. Not that everything is great, but that everything is in the context of a relationship. When you have that shift in perspective, all of a sudden true simcha becomes possible. All of a sudden it's possible to view life through a lens of feeling that you're intimately involved in a relationship with Hashem and that there's nothing negative. And even the negative that happens, that's Hashem. And He's looking out for you. And you love it. And you want it and you crave it. It'll take a while till we get there. I'm not there. But that's the goal. And that's the end of this first year. Hey, we did a few words. Have a great night, and I hope to see you again.